Hello, welcome to the second installment of our first webinar series. I am your virtual PLC lead, Dr. Zandra Bell McRoy, and let's just jump right back in to our webinar series, getting off to a great start. So we're going to talk about the middle and high school non-beginning band students. So any students that have already completed beginning band, we're not talking about those students. That was the last series. Now we're going to talk about all of our non-beginning band students, both middle and high school. So we take a lot of time and a lot of care with getting our beginning band students started every year. And I think that we could borrow some of those ideas that we have from beginning bands to help reinforce and reinvigorate our non-beginning band students at the beginning of each school year. So borrowing that idea of a jumpstart day and turning it into something different, kickstart day to kickstart that learning in band, to close those gaps from the summer slide, as they call it, and like a lot of the literacy, ELA, English language arts field, we talk a lot about summer slide. And we want to close those gaps from summer because many students don't pick up their instruments over the summer, and that's okay because some of them don't even have them. If they use school-owned instruments, they won't have access to those many times during the summer because that's when instruments are cleaned and repaired and the general maintenance is done. And so, and there's also still a little bit of COVID hangover. And when I say little bit, I mean a lot. Um, we are still all experiencing that, the residual effects of our students having been virtual for a period of time. And it's still, for some of us that spent a lot of time in virtual learning, it is still affecting us, especially at the high school level with our middle schoolers coming up. Um, it's something that we have to remedy, and it's okay. And so being creative and using some of those ideas from beginning band could be helpful. A Kickstart Day could also allow students to get together and socialize a bit, remind them of the non-musical benefits of band. It would be really great. So giving them that opportunity to just be together, socialize, and then also kickstart their music learning. And so at the start of the year, we build embouchures with our beginning band students. Let's rebuild embouchures with our non-beginning band students to remind them of how important that embouchure is. Like the analogy that I like to use is a professional singer would not go out on stage with any old microphone or would not do a recording session for their next album with any old microphone. They would take the time to pick a really high quality microphone, make sure it works for them, and they like the sound that it produces and all of that. And so that embouchure is the same thing. It allows us to control what comes out of that instrument, just like our microphone. Um, Rebuilding the postures, which is a part of that, that microphone stand. You're holding up that posture or holding up that embouchure with great posture so that the air can flow freely. So rebuild those postures, rebuild those embouchures. Take that time to remind them of how important those pieces of the puzzle are. I always tell them we've got to get our ape in order, and that's our air, our posture, and our embouchure. And so as long as we have our ape in order, we're probably going to get the type of tone we want. This is a great time to reestablish norms and expectations, remind them of what your norms are in your classroom. And we'll talk more about that in the third installment of this webinar. But it's reestablishing those norms and expectations for your students is really important. And then a Kickstart, it could also help non-marching band students get caught up. So if you're in high school and you have a large number or a fairly large percentage of your band program not marching, some of those students are going to take a little longer to get kick-started, right? And so having a Kickstart Day could be great to get them back into the groove. I know we have a fairly large program class-wise. We have 3 full bands at my school, but we don't have a lot of those students marching. And so we need to get everyone kick-started. So it's really important to use some of those ideas that we have with beginning band and the care that we take with beginning band and transferring that over to getting everyone started in a really strong and meaningful way. So also consider an early symphonic band camp. So hosting a STEM camp early in the school year, like a smaller version of it, would not be a horrible thing because then they're used to the STEM camp setup when you get to that point for a large group, if that is something that you do every year. Um, it can help the students establish the behaviors necessary for a successful performance. So if you are someone that is having a fall concert, having a sim camp would not be a bad thing to get them kick started, to get them in the mindset of how to um, prepare a concert that is successful, how to prepare that successful performance. Um, Keep it small. You don't have to be as big. It doesn't have to have every single instrument represented. You can just have large group sectional, all your woodwinds together, all your brass together, all your percussion together, and you spend more time focusing on pedagogy and a little music um, to help them again kickstart that the learning into how to best um, work to mastery of the music and the pedagogical concepts necessary to be successful on your instrument. So, and it also, again, allows time for students to socialize, and nothing beats a good pizza party. It doesn't matter how old students are, a pizza party is the way to go. So if you say, okay, guys, we're going to have an early STEM camp, and it's going to be right after school, 2 hours, no biggie, and then afterwards we're going to have a pizza party. Something about a pizza party is just so appealing to teenagers and young adolescents or preteens or tweens, whatever you call it. Um, it works because it gives them time to socialize and do something they really love, eat junk food. And then consider working together as a cluster to keep costs low or non-existent. If everybody works together, you can figure out who's going to do woodwinds, who's going to do brass, who's going to do percussion, and work it all out and figure it out with your elementary teachers and your middle school and your high school, and everybody's working together. It could really be helpful and if you work out a barter system with, if you guys help us with this, we'll come and perform at the elementary school when you need us, things like that. So really working as a cluster could be really helpful, but that's just something to think about. Consider an early STEM camp so that you are instilling those behaviors that you want early and not waiting until large groups and reinforcing what you want, rebuilding, kick starting is so important. So the day-to-day journey with non-beginners is not exactly about um, building these ideas, but it's about reminding them of it. So when we're in meetings a lot of time, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but um, people will talk about the big rocks. What are your big rocks? So the things that are most important and reminding them of these big rocks. So you can develop your own big rocks for your classroom. I just have three examples here. Tone, breaking down and rebuilding embouchures if necessary. This is not something that is uncommon. Anytime students step away from the instrument, anytime anyone steps away from the instrument for an extended period of time, whether it's 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, doesn't matter. You have to rebuild that embouchure. It's like you lose some of your muscle tone, you lose some of your muscle memory. You have to rebuild it. Um, Playing lots of examples of quality tone, not just band, but also individual instruments, especially as they get older and more experienced and more mature. It's really important for them to hear professional musicians on their individual instruments so that they can work to mimic and match that. Yes, they need to hear what a quality band sound is, but they also need to know what a quality soloistic tuba sound is so that they can mimic that and work to mimic that. I spend lots of time playing in unison. I did not come up with that on my own. I got that from the legendary Jesse Walker. That was one thing he said early and often when I first met him years and years ago. I guess maybe like 20 years ago. Um, he talked about having your band play in unison. And he talked about it in respect to like, we spend so much time in method books in middle school teaching them how to play with quality tone and um, and listening and matching and playing in in tune and in tone. And then we get to more advanced, whether it's high school or upper middle, and we forget and we have them playing chorales all the time, but they never play in unison. And he said that it's really important for them to be able to play in unison and to be able to focus on intonation, playing in tone and in tune, so that when they do play a chorale, they know exactly how to play in tune with the people they're playing that particular part with. He said it's great to play chorales, but you only play chorales after they have a really strong sense of how to play in tune and in tone, and then you transfer that over to chorales and teaching them how to listen and how to balance and how to play together with the people they're supposed to be on a team with, whether they're the melody, the counter, harmony, or accompaniment. So that is really important. So we spend lots and lots of time playing in unison so that we can establish that quality band sound that we want. And every band has its own characteristic kind of tone. And so you figure that out when you're playing in unison. Who do we sound like? What do we sound like? Who are we as a band? Another big rock for me is rhythm, incorporating a lot of rhythm studies. So starting simple and working your way up. Most students didn't practice over the summer, so getting them started on simple rhythm reading exercises and um, switching it up and keeping them guessing. And every day, it's getting more and more complex until you work to mastery and then you bump it up. Work to mastery, bump it up, and so you don't move on until they're ready to move on to more complicated rhythms. It's really important to get them back into building their rhythm, reading muscles. And then finally, singing. And this will help on the intonation journey, which is a journey we are all on until we stop playing our instrument. Um, and just remember, let them know if you can sing it, you can play it. So if they can sing and match pitch, and they can sing a line, they can play that line. They just, because it's all about audiation. Can they hear it in their head? You can't audiate unless you know what it sounds like. So singing helps you implant that in your mind's ear. And so that singing is really important to help them with playing in tune and in tone. Okay. And like I said, just really quickly, like I said, those big rocks can be different for you. It can be tone, um, rhythm, and you know theory, or tone, singing, and something else. So the big rocks are what's important to you in your band room. And so something to try. This is something that we do with our students at our school, and I've done this in the past. I always do this with my students. It's called Method Book Boot Camp. Band Boot Camp is what we're still in it right now. It's September. We won't be done with boot camp until next month. But we are still in the throes of Band Boot Camp. And Method Book Boot Camp is something that the kids absolutely hate, but it helps so much, and they just know this is just part of the grind. This is what we have to do to get better. So we take the method book and we back up. And in the method book, now let me say, if you're not using some sort of method book, whether it's something you wrote yourself or something you purchased or whatever, I would highly encourage you to do that. It just helps you stay organized, and you don't have to necessarily go from line 1 to line 200 in the book all the time. You can jump around as you see fit to teach the concepts and the skills that you want, but just know that there needs to be some type of order and structure to the work that you do. So anyway, off of that soapbox. So we back up to the beginning of the method book that we use, and we power read until we hit a wall, until we start to make mistakes. And then we take that as our metric and we back up about 3 lines, 5 lines, something like that, and we start working on the book, and we work to mastery um, on each line. So then we start to move through the book intensely. So we're working to get every line performance ready. And so that's teaching them how to work and how, and it's because they're only like 8 measures or 16 measures or 24 measures. They're really short. And most of the time in unison, we're able to use that to help them learn to work through music for mastery, how to break things down, slow things down, break things apart. Levels 1, 2, and 3, that's where we teach all of that. Level 1 is everything that's on the staff. Level 2 is what's above. Level 3 is what's below. And so we talk about level 1 only. Let's go. Just all the right notes, all the right rhythms. And then we talk about, let's add level 2, all the right notes, all the right rhythms, all the right articulations. And then level 3, all the right notes, all the right rhythms, all the right articulations, and all the right dynamics. And so we work to have a superior performance on each and every line in the book. That is just the grind of boot camp. And sometimes you just have to do that. As an individual player, I do that as well. I'll get out my Toffanel and Gobert book and I will start my scale study work, and I will work on each line, working on getting um, things worked up. I haven't done that in a while. I'm a little out of shape. So, but yeah, it really does help, and it gets you, you and the kids in the groove of really working toward mastery, because it's something you have to practice. It's a muscle you have to build as well. All right. And then there's skill building boot camp, and the skill building boot camp is not as bad, but it's still kind of bad. They still don't like it. Um, so the way I build skill building boot camp is I work it in scales. So I break it down by key. So we work on scales. We use our Allstate scales. So if you are in, it depends on which band you're in. If you're in a certain group, because our bands are tiered, they're audition groups, we break it up by the majority. So the majority of a band is 11th and 12th grade. Those are the skills everyone has to learn and work. And so if you're a ninth grader in the wind ensemble, so sorry, but you've got to learn the 11th and 12th grade scales. And so we work all those skills and we add the technical studies. So we have a scale of the week. We always start with our most familiar scale, which is the scale for band folks, and that's concert B flat. If we work we work the scale and the technical studies in that key. So we're working on thirds. We're working on like we're working all of that. We're working on like rhythm reading things in that key. So we're working for mastery on each scale. Some scales we have to spend more than a week on. So, for example, concert D flat, concert G flat, we have to spend more than a week on those. We are spending like a couple of weeks. Or when I say a couple, I mean like 3. On that scale, it's just nasty. Concert B, same thing. And no, we don't play in those scales that often, but they do have to know it if they're going to Allstate, so audition. So I want them to be prepared and ready. Do we work for the same level of mastery in those keys that we do in like in concert B, concert E, concert A? No, we don't work for the same level of mastery as like B flat, E flat, A flat, C, G, F, even like D, concert D. So we don't work for the same level of mastery, but we do have to work for some, because there is band music out there in those keys, and you never know when we're going to come up against it. And I don't ever want them to feel unprepared. Once they leave me, I want them to feel comfortable with playing in a community band or in a band at college, or if they want to be a music major, being a music major, I want them to be ready. So With that being said, that is the idea behind the skill building boot camp. It can be taxing, but it also can be helpful to you as a teacher because you know what you're walking into every day. You're not trying to be all, super creative. Okay, this is our boot camp time and we're all just going to brave through it. And again, making those scales mean something, making those technical studies mean something. There's so many backing tracks out there to make it more interesting and to help them with playing in tune in all of these different keys because that's a whole nother beast in itself. So there you go. There's my band boot camp. Hope you like it. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to reach out to me. We do it all the time. We do it every year. And we also do it after the winter break as well. So um, they get to hate me twice every year. Remember, this is still applicable, right? Be patient. Take your time. Um, I know that when I was a younger teacher, sometimes I would feel the pressure to get ready for a concert. But guess what? That concert's going to come and it's going to be what it's going to be. But if you take your time and teach them to work for mastery, you'll be so much more pleased with the product that you get for that first concert than if you just try to hammer that music into their brain. Okay? Again, I'm going to put this infographic up here in case you didn't see the first segment. This still applies. Now, the safer activities thing on the second bullet is, it was from, I did this infographic when we were in the throes of hybrid learning, where we had some students in school and some students at home. And so we wanted to make sure that we were, being safe in the classroom. But I just wanted to use it because it's still applicable today. Slow and steady wins the race. Take your time and keep the students focused on mastery, not just flying through things, but making everything really good, taking care with everything. Fill the time with creative activities. So fill the time with music theory, fill the time with listening journals, fill the time with playing with backing tracks, matching pitch, small ensemble work. Really just take your time. Fill the time with boot camp. It's great. Ensure that no student is left behind. So making sure that everybody is getting it. If you're working toward mastery, that means mastery for all, for every student from your first year flute player all the way to your last year third clarinet. Every single student counts and matters, and they need to get it. No one should be left behind. No band roadkill. Hold on to as many students as possible. You can't teach them if they ain't there. So make sure that if you don't leave them behind, if you make sure that they're all engaged and all involved and all invested, then you will be so much more pleased with how many kids you keep. And then don't get fixated on perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. We are humans, and we're humans manipulating machines for the, for the pleasure, the listening pleasure of an audience. So it's nothing's going to be perfect, and it's okay. But focus on progress. Get the kids accustomed to evaluating. Did I get better? Am I better today than I was yesterday? Am I better this week than I was last week? Am I getting better? Self-evaluation is so important for them and for you as a teacher. Focus on progress for them and for you. Cut yourself some slack. You're not going to be a perfect teacher. Never. Cut yourself some slack. You just want to get better, right? All of us, no matter how long you've been teaching. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this segment. I will be back for one final segment in which we will talk about, classroom environment and goal setting and how to build that at the very beginning of the year. I hope that you will follow us on our social media pages there on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Georgia Department of Ed or Georgia DEPT OFED. You can also check us out on YouTube. We have the page where all of these videos are stored, and you can check out our website, www.godot.org. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please reach out to me in the discussion board, and have a great day. Happy teaching. Bye.